I feel like many things aren't finished because we are unable to start them. I think that a lot of times in life it gets very easy to get caught up and not realize how much time we really have in the present moment. And when I say time in the present moment, I mean that a lot of times we have more free time than we think. A lot of times we have, uh, I wouldn't say ample time, but enough time to actually pursue what we want and invest our energy into that which we need. And we don't do it. And I think also when it comes to our progression of self and our development as people and the love that we give to ourselves and the appreciation we give to ourselves, the intimacy that we create with life, the overall commitment that we have to whatever it is that we desire. You know, we're waiting, but what are we waiting for? I think there are many signs out there, and I think the biggest one is the desire itself. I think the biggest one is you wanting it. And I think we wait on the world to line up before we align ourselves with what we want. And I think self alignment is one of the most beautiful things. And I think it's one of the most important things in the cultivation and pursuing of anything. And I'm not necessarily new to this information, but it's definitely being implemented in a more intimate and intentional way nowadays. And I think with me, it's just about understanding that if you want to create something or if you want to establish anything when it comes to your life and your desires, you at first have to believe that you can achieve that certain something, and you have to actually try. I think we don't realize how much a goal without action is just a thought. How much desire without action is just a thought. And I think we shouldn't just allow our dreams to be things. We have to learn to establish them into some sort of reality without limiting who we are, without limiting our perspective, without compromising our authenticity as people. And I think the greatest way to do that is to allow yourself to, I don't want to say just be present. I want to say allow yourself to dream in a way. Allow yourself to go within the feeling that inspired the action, inspired whatever it is you want. Feel that desire, feel that um, happiness that you would feel had you already achieved this certain something. Put yourself in the future place already so you don't have to get there as much mentally. I think we're just waiting on, I don't even know, a physical representation of our goal or dream or reason to go towards it other than ourselves. I think if we're establishing our foundation within who we are, then it's important to validate who we are by going at what we desire because we desire it. I'm not talking about negative things. I'm not talking about just in general things, but more so things like your dreams and aspirations. What you want to do in the world, what you want to do in your life, and what you want to do with yourself. And I think when it comes to self development and helping yourself out and self care and self love, it's also about not waiting for that either. You shouldn't have to wait to love yourself. There shouldn't be some telltale reason that you decide to start loving yourself someday. I think it's just about the principle of you being alive and being worthy of love, you being worthy of being yourself and you being enough for yourself and giving yourself validation just off that fact alone. I think that breeds a lot more integrity with our life and authenticity. And I think if we keep allowing ourselves to live in doubt and allowing our minds to sort of take us away from the moment, then we're losing so much more than we have potential to gain. And it's sort of tragic to think about sometimes how much our mental dispositions take away from our life. It's almost like we take away our own ability to achieve and our inability to think that we can, and our inability to actually take the steps necessary to move forward. I think a lot of us think that the world is sort of coming at us in a way, that things are just going to magically appear where we are. But I think the law of attraction is not necessarily one-sided. You know, like if you put two magnets close to each other, it's not like one of them moves only. You know, both of them move typically. And I think if we're going to bring ourselves to the level of our desires, then it's about us going towards whatever's coming towards us. What you seek is seeking you. And I think it gets hard when we allow, I think the magnet analogy is pretty good. I think it gets hard when we allow our desires to be so much bigger than we are, because it's sort of treated like this huge thing. And if we're a small magnet, then it's going to be hard to attract it. It's going to be hard to actually go towards it unless we're the ones that are taking the steps, unless we're the ones putting in all the effort. And that's why I feel like it's important to bring yourself to the level of your desires and open up your perspective enough to accommodate whatever it is that you want. I feel like when you actually open your doors to yourself and open the doors to your own understanding, it makes it a lot easier to understand pretty much everything. And I don't mean that in a sense of knowing everything about the world, but knowing everything about how your perspective dictates what you experience, or how your perspective dictates what you've been able to gather as knowledge within the world. And that's why I think knowledge of the self is knowledge of the world, because you're recognizing how an individual perspective contributes to so much. And I think it's important to validate that individual perspective with a sense of admiration and a sense of curiosity. Like, I'm beginning to wake up each day, and I think the thing that gets me into the present moment, I think that gets me into a good feeling in order to continue to move forward, is recognizing that nothing that I'm doing today has ever happened before. Not in the sense of, oh, I haven't woken up before, but in the sense of this day hasn't happened for me yet. This present moment is continuing, and everything is new in a real way. And if we allow things to be new in a real way, then we don't have to really wait for anything. Everything is always on the cusp of our perspective, a cusp of our perception. And if we allow everything to be new, then we learn to have a subtle appreciation for everything that is, because everything that is in the moment will be new along with us. And if we treat ourselves that way, we allow ourselves to be sort of instantiated in this moment and give ourselves an opportunity to be free, at least in a mental sense, at least in a sense of expression, then I think we'll find so much more to life and so much more to ourselves than we ever could have previously imagined. I think when you just exist in the moment, and let me actually talk about that, because the moment is such a general thing to say, and I think it's just hard to encompass what that really means in terms of regular words. But to me, the moment is a recognition that you don't have to be anywhere but where you are. And you don't have to occupy your mind with useless negativity if it paints your moment in a way that doesn't actually accommodate you. I talked about it in my last video about how when we are stuck in thought and stuck in negative feeling, we're taken away from the moment. And it's because what we feel becomes this moment. We project however we feel into the moment. And if we're feeling fear, if we're feeling negativity, then it encompasses all that is within right now. That's why they say what you think is what you are. Or a man sees in the world what he carries in his heart. Because it's always about projection. It's always been about you seeing yourself through the world around you. And to say, what are you waiting for? Is to say that if you're seeing nothing happen, if you're seeing nothing change, if you're seeing straight stagnation and you're uncomfortable with it, then it's about your movement. It's about you choosing to move, you choosing to take the steps that are actually integral. And I think once I realized this, it helped me out a lot more in terms of my overall daily life. I think a lot of us are goal oriented. And I think a lot of us have dreams for the future and have things that we want. And we have a rigid way of thinking about how we want it. And I think oftentimes we wait on ourselves to sort of begin that work, to begin that action that actually leads to our best good. And I think for me, um, just making that choice to be present and sort of getting rid of my own doubt and sort of instilling faith by, I don't know, affirmations, meditation, and definitely just conscious thought, being conscious of what I'm feeding myself mentally in terms of my thoughts. Like not allowing myself to perpetuate any type of negativity as it pertains to my dreams or even myself sometimes. And that's not to say I think I'm a perfect person or to incentivize being narcissistic in any way, because I don't feel like that's the case. Instead, I think it's about being brutally honest with yourself, but also brutally caring with yourself. I think honesty doesn't have to be a negative thing, a reprimand, a shame, a guilt. I think it has to be a conscious intention with your actions that allows you to actually traverse the world as yourself and not live in the abstractions of your feelings of guilt, shame, this, that, and the other, because you're being present enough to make the choices that lead to your actual peace. And I think I try my best to make choices that allow me to continue to be myself without any regard, without any overzealous thought. And I think that definitely has happened over time, because it's not like it's been like that always. I definitely used to be very analytical of who I was and very intellectual when it came to the world. Like I used to over intellectualize every interaction and this, that, and the other when it doesn't really need to be. And I think there's a certain value in intellectualizing things, but I think there's more value in allowing things to be as they are. Because that's when we actually grant ourselves to be as we are. I think when we over intellectualize the world, we tend to over intellectualize the self and think that we have a certain amount of requirements and a certain amount of this, is that, and the other before we're actually allowed to be in the world, before we give ourselves permission to be who we are and actually achieve what we want to achieve. I think a lot of people don't go towards the goals that they desire because they subtly don't feel like they deserve it, or they don't feel like they're fit for the task when they are. If you recognize what the task is, then all you have to do is do it. And I think a lot of us think there's more credentials than that. We think that there's more standards, you have to meet more this, more that, when it's really just about if you have the ability to do it. And I think to know it's humanly possible means you too can do it. It just may take time. It just may take effort. It may take energy. And I think the greatest way to sort of dispel that notion of effort, that notion of stress, is to be present with it as well and treat it like it's on the cusp of the horizon, the cusp of the present moment, and not have any expectation for it to just appear on your lap and just be here wherever you are. I think having no expectation is what grants a lot. Like having no expectation for what is yet to come in your day. Not necessarily saying you don't have a plan for what you're going to do, but you're not having a plan for how everything is going to play out. It allows you to be free in a moment because it's instantiating the idea that who you are is not dependent on a certain series of events in order to find comfort in the moment where you are. I think a lot of us need our days to go certain ways, and I definitely used to be like this and still am like that sometimes, where I try to plan out my day, or I want something to go a certain way so much that when it doesn't go that way, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel like things need to do something different, or I'm just so within that feeling of, oh, this isn't how I wanted it to go, that I actually fail to appreciate whatever new thing is occurring. And I think we take away so much from our own lives when we do that. When we don't give ourselves an opportunity to be where we are and instead get trapped in our mind. And if we're going to stay in our mind, then we can't expect to be in the world at the same time. anytime that you want to be in the world, anytime that you want to experience the now, you have to take a step forward from your mind in a real way. To say, what are you waiting for? Is to say, why stay in the mind when you can be in the world? Why keep your dreams in your head when you want them in reality? I think we have to learn to go all into whatever it is we desire. Go all in, not in a sense of overzealous effort and taking yourself out of house and home, but in a sense of mental preparedness, in a sense of faith in self, in a sense of love for who we are, enough to recognize that we deserve whatever it is we want, by virtue of wanting it. And we have to, of course, be honest with ourselves in terms of our own moral character and own this is and the other. But I think it's overall just important to be present with who you are enough to recognize the parts of yourself that are seeking out change, and recognizing the opportunity that you have to change in positive ways just in being yourself, in allowing yourself to actually be seen. I think you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. And if we're waiting to heal ourselves or waiting to acknowledge these certain things, then they'll never be healed and they'll never be acknowledged either. Um, all that's to say, thank you for watching the video. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys are taking care of yourself. Um, I don't know. It feels like a new time for real for me. I don't know why it does, but it does. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all of you who are watching, and grateful for all of you who are still tuned in. So keep being y'all, keep being great. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves and doing what you can with what you have. And yeah, for sure. One more thing.